All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this month's edition of Clemson 40 Live Question and Answer. And I'm here with our fearless leader, Matt Beamer. Matt, how you doing, my friend?
Doing good. Unfortunately, the internet's not, and so we've got a backup plan to hand it over, and Ronnie's going to carry the heavy side of this, but we're still going to give it a go and see how it works.
Yeah, working in the parts of the world that we do, internet problems are no stranger to us, but we are flexible. We won't dive deep into our vision and mission, but let me tell you something that you're a part of. Our 2040 vision is to train thousands of leaders, mobilize hundreds of near culture missionaries, and inspire dozens of church planting movements across North Africa and the Middle East by 2040. That's a big vision, Matt.
Yeah, and we're seeing it come to pass in incredible ways. There's, for example, one country alone that the strategic plan is formulated to have 40,000 house churches by 2040, and working backwards from there, all the systems and things that it would require, all the funding pieces that it would require, for example, using business, not traditional funding partnership, but business as mission for mobilization of visas and funding. All that's coming together and the systems are coming in place. The team is being built. It's actually a crazy vision that I'm seeing things move forward in a positive way towards.
Outstanding. Again, this is live question and answer. We want to interact with you. If you have a question about something we're talking about or something you've always just wondered about with Clemson 40, you can type it in the chat and our team will actually moderate that and send that up. Some great questions that had come in. And one of my favorite questions, Matt, that we had received from some of our dear friends is, we talk about Clemson 40. Our vision is a finished work. And they had a question about what is the biblical evidence that we can reach every nation in one generation?
I mean, we'd spend 20 hours in the Bible colleges talking about that one question and building the case from multiple different aspects of the scripture. But just real quickly, Matthew 24:14 says, when this gospel of the kingdom is preached throughout all the world as a witness to every nation, then the end shall come. Matthew 13 says this, that the harvest is the end of the age. Mark 13 says this gospel must first be published in every nation before the end can come. James says, James 5, the Lord of the harvest, the husbandman, the farmer waits for the precious fruit of the earth. We take all those scriptures that talk about the finish line to the Great Commission, and then we look through the lens of how God has always dealt with people according to generations. And I don't have time to build a case in this context, but we pull those scriptures we look at them in great detail.
Outstanding. Makes me want to sign up for that class, but something we can talk more about in the future. Some more questions that came in, which is this a big question and might not work for Matt to answer when he's in a internet challenged area right now. But Matt, the question was, what is the legacy that we are trying to achieve here?
This question actually links to the last question. So, for example, the children of Israel, there was a whole generation that had to die off before a generation could go into the promised land because of unbelief. We're not that generation. We're doing everything we can in our generation to release faith in the global church that we can fulfill the Great Commission in our generation. So if we had a generational legacy, it's always attached to that. And a big part of that would be is if we're not able to complete the Great Commission in our lifetime, is that all of the systems, the teams, the people, the resources would be in place to make a significant contribution to speeding the return of Jesus by completing the Great Commission. So we're giving our life to that in every way we can.
The question is that came in was, why does Clemson 40 train local leaders rather than just send missionaries?
Well, there's many reasons for that. It's a really great question. Especially in the areas we're working, access is a really big issue, and meaning that people with American passports don't have freedom of movement, freedom of communication. And in many of these places, you cannot legally form some of the organizations, churches, ministries, etc., that would be required to facilitate the expansion of the Great Commission, the completion of the Great Commission, and which will produce, of course, the closure of this church age. So, one of the things I've seen in mission like discussion is that people are either all in on the mobilizing cross-cultural or they're all in on the locals. And I resist that all or nothing on both sides. I think it's a combination of both. So Club 1040 gets on the ground, and its aim is entirely to leverage all the resources, the people relationships we already have over the 30 some years, leverage them towards developing local leaders who can then continue in a ripple effect, just expands. You see that in Jesus's ministry. He came from heaven and he raised up a team, 3 years of team ministry, and then he left the scene, but he left his word, he left the systems, he left the Holy Spirit, the coaching, he left the letters, all those things, he left the tools, his name, the blood of Jesus, all those things. And as a result, that team has grown from the few hundred at the time of his departure to a billion plus people over this period of time. And that has happened in large part through that local expansion of the original team. So that's one reason. Also, people who are closer to the culture are much more effective at communicating something within the culture that they know. They have wisdom about how to say things that doesn't short circuit the communication of the gospel, where if you come from the outside, there's so many gaps in your understanding. You say things sometimes that can offend people inadvertently and actually put roadblocks and stumbling blocks in front of people receiving. And so I see both. I see open on the other side. From a cross-cultural standpoint, sometimes people are so involved in the inside, they don't have any hope for their own people. And we can come from the outside and bring hope. We can bring resources. We can help speed things. But ultimately, it's about near culture workers, and then ultimately about local leaders being raised up to expand according to the will of God in their area.
That's so awesome. Now, as a cross-culture missionary yourself, I'm sure you've encountered some sticky situations. And the last question we'll ask today for this portion was, what is the most aggressive encounter that you have had with foreign authorities?
We've had some pretty aggressive encounters over the years. A couple funny ones, I guess. I've had in one particular country in Central South America, I had a person put a gun in my face. So I've had those kind of experiences, but this one I think is a little bit more humorous. And I'm on the way back to the airport. I've got very little time. The taxi that I'm using was like a Fred Flintstone car. The bottom of the frame was completely worn out, and the guy was using a hanger to be able to pull his brake back out. No, it was a clutch or something. His clutch back out, like he'd push it and he'd have to use a hanger to pull it back because it didn't have a spring to push itself back. And it was hilarious. The car had less of a floor than it had. It was like windows in the bottom almost. And so we're barely making it, and we get to this intersection, and the driver didn't want to stop the car, and he couldn't stop very well. So the traffic person, the policeman, stopped us and brought us to the side. And so he was basically going to take us in, and he's trying to get a bribe is what he was doing. He was going to take it, and he's threatening to take us into authorities. I'm like, I got to go to the airport. I'm going to miss my flight. I'm already late. And so he pulled me on the car. He's threatening me in all different ways. And finally, I just put out my hand like this and didn't say anything else. And he was completely confused and dumbfounded. And then I said, will you be my friend? And he reached forward and shook my hand, and he started laughing. And he broke the ice on the whole thing. That was the first time I did that. And I did it just on the spot. I had no idea, just kind of came up to do that. I've used that tactic so many times since then. I remember one time I was in a market. There was a police detective that started shouting at me and yelling at me for no reason other than I was the only non-local person there, and he's going to bring me into the authorities. I just went, "Will you be my friend?" And he started laughing and shook my hand, and we started talking about family and stuff. So I've had a lot of situations like that, and it's usually a soft answer that disrupts that sort of wrath type situation.
We got to write that down. I think that might pay off in a lot of situations. That's outstanding. Well, to keep this thing rolling, let's get into some of these updates. And one thing we want to talk about to start with today is, looking back really further than 30 days over the past 6 years, the result of that Beirut blast that happened in 2020. There were multiple hundreds of people who lost their lives, thousands of people injured. And, I remember watching just these jarring images of people who were recording at that time. And I mean, you could feel the shockwave through the video. And I mean, in many ways, it was a blast heard around the world. If you're watching this today and maybe you hadn't heard or hadn't seen those, you could just Google Beirut blast, and it's well documented. But as the church does, it was incredible to see how Club 1040 and our team on the ground responded, where we had 15 churches and businesses, 60 plus who were ministered to and repaired, 60 plus homes repaired. There were 25,000 hot meals and 2,000 aid boxes filled with food, medicine, formula, and diapers that were given out. And during that time, there were 2.5 million people reached through our monthly messages that are broadcast online through Go Church Beirut. And they were watched through to completion over 100,000 times in the country of Lebanon. And it's just a great example of, as always, what the devil means for harm, God turns for good. And the church will always have the opportunity to step up and respond to these type of disasters and situations in people's lives. But Matt, what was it like being on the ground when that happened?
It was pretty devastating for the team members. A lot of them, people who were involved in it, a lot of them went to the hospital. Well, 300,000 people displaced included, I think, 4 major hospitals. You had women running with nurses, neonatal nurses running with, infants that were born, even premature babies that were born, looking for places where they could try to find a place with electricity. There wasn't any to try to, power the things. It was all kinds of crazy things that happened. Like I said, 300,000 people displaced in a moment's time. And up till now, no one's been held to account. There's actually a lot of stuff going on right now within the country because the judicial system is becoming more free to be able to move forward in things like this. And so there's actually talk about maybe some people being actually held to account for the stuff that happened. But the fact that Club 1040 Partners responded in the way they did, it was over $200,000 was raised within 6 to 8 weeks. And a big part of what you said is the rebuilding of houses and churches. There was no government help. The church was one of the main helps. And so our team going into people that were not from a similar background to us, and a number of people just through sharing the love, I think it was over 100 people came to faith. And there were so many incredible stories along those lines. But really what I want people to see is there was a hopelessness that grabbed a hold of people's hearts at that time. And, we have the hope. It was out of that then we start broadcasting these once a month services online. And as you said, 2.5 million in the first couple of months. Within a space of time, there was well over 5 million people that connected with those. And that's 5 million people who not just connected and watched some portion, but they watched 97% of a 55-minute podcast. And it was all done by the Lebanese team members. So the Lebanese team members grew super quick in their ability to communicate the gospel. We had people answering the phones and answering messages that were new in faith And we said, look, if you don't know the answer, just take down the question, get the contact, and we'll help you get the answer and feedback to them. But it became a incredible, devastating thing that was turned around for a positive now. And it was the 4th largest non-atomic blast. It blew in the windows. A cool story was the office space, the floor above our office space and the floor below got all the windows blown in and everything happened. The only thing that happened to our space is a picture kind of fell down off the wall. And then there's so many testimonies of how God protected Christians, pastors and Christians, so many testimonies. In fact, there's YouTube videos 1 year on. Caleb Judy helped us do kind of some stories and stuff. You can go on our channel, Clifton 40, and you can go and look under YouTube and go back. You can hear different people's stories during the time. And then there was a 1 year on impact of it. And just, that's the kind of thing that you as partners, Clifton 40 partners, do is just so amazing.
Man, that's so awesome. Well, keeping this thing rolling as we have responsibility across all of North Africa and the Middle East, 22 countries. We have multiple countries with updates today. And as far as some wins, a country that we've been progressing towards, active, working in, coming up here. There's the country, and Matt, I'll let you describe it in more detail if we're ready to do that. But in this country, we have right now teams who are learning the language, which is progressing nicely. We have some major translation projects that are happening, which we'll talk about in more detail a little bit later. We have some team members who received supernatural favor on relocation. And on this one, we actually have a summit that's happening. We're calling it our iSummit. It's going to be held on September the 21st, and we'll have team members on the ground in the country, and people will actually be available to join in remotely. If you're interested in attending that iSummit, it'll be during the week, during the 21st, I believe, like 10 a.m. Central. You can send an email to admin@club1040.com and go through the process to have access to that or to watch it later on. But Matt, do you want to talk any more about this particular country?
Yeah. So as Julie and I are in the process of relocating from Lebanon, having turned things over to Matt and Julie Hadabaugh in the Lebanese team. So the church was pioneered. 1 year later, we turned that over. And then Bible College turned over 1 year later after starting it, turned that over. And then we started prayerfully looking at the next places stationed. There were 2 countries that came up. And one of those countries is the one I'm going to mention right now. We've not talked about it publicly in this kind of environment before for obvious security implications. And if you're not aware of what I mean by that, just do a little bit of research and Google how this country relates to some of the countries surrounding it. However, and I'm going to be careful how much I use the name of the country. I'm only going to mention it once or twice. But what we've done within our systems is we have internal codes that we use, and we number countries out of the 22 countries with using internal codes. But I'm mentioning it now because I want you to be aware of some of the things that are happening and how you can be a part of it. Because we have gone from like foundation, fact-finding, advanced team trips. Now we're moving into the next phase of launch team phase. And over the next couple of years, the teams will get on the ground, the teams will be built, and then we'll be launching several initiatives, starting with a digital leadership tool that is aimed at every one of the local Christian communities within this country, and helping to strengthen the existing leaders. And right now, the team is going through the development of the LMS, what does that stand for, Ronnie? LMS?
Learning Management System.
Yeah, and we've Club 40 Partners, you helped us the teams researched it. You've helped us to fund one of the best learning management systems we could have ever gotten. And this is after a lot of research and time spent on it. And we're going to be using that tool to implement so that we can train in areas that are hard to get to and get as many people trained as possible and impacted as possible. So, and there's some translation that has to happen, and that language group is Hebrew. We're also doing books and resources. So obviously, you know which country I'm talking about. And we've just had our legal organization has been approved in the country. We're going through several things like setting up the systems, the SOPs, the bank accounts, things like that. But when we say iSummit, it stands, of course, for Israel, the summit about Israel. We've been super careful about how we communicate this because of the fact that if it's not communicated well and accurately, people get all kinds of crazy ideas. So, for example, there's not going to be a Bible college launch there in any time within the next 2 years, but there's a lot of stuff happening, one of which is translation of books and materials ahead of time. And we have an example of that. Ronnie, if you can kind of break off and show a little bit about that and tell a little bit about that project. These materials are materials that now strengthen the existing communities of believers, but then also will be leveraged towards future Bible colleges when they do start. And we'll talk more about the kind of strategy that we're going to have with that in the iSummit. And we're doing it on a Monday at 10 a.m. Central or 11 a.m. Eastern time because of the fact we're going to be doing it broadcasting from that country around the world. And so that's the time zones taken into consideration when we could put it into our schedule. And we're going to have actual local team members that will be communicating and sharing with you. We did an iSummit in person a couple years ago. We just did one this last May, I think it was. Julie and I were actually in Egypt when that one was done, and that was online. This will be online as well. You have to have an invite to participate in it, but we'll be going into all kinds of detail on it. Then what we do is we take that recording and we make that recording available with an unlock code, a passcode that you need. And then it's in that environment that we share things we can't talk about in this environment and we won't talk about on a regular basis. And this is also just one example of something that has been going on for 3 or 4 years that we can't talk about publicly. So Club 1040 partners who give every month, you make this kind of thing happen because we can't go to the public on projects on stuff like this. We do have projects. Ronnie's going to talk about that, but we don't put them on our website. So I'm kind of pulling back the curtain a little bit and opening this up to you. We won't be talking about a lot of it, talking that much about it in the future publicly like this, but I wanted you to kind of get a sneak peek. Go ahead, Ronnie.
Man, what a special day to be tuning in to our live question and answer. I'm holding in my hand about 7 of our recently translated life-giving books into the language Matt was talking about. And again, we're using the actual terms sparingly, even vocally, because of algorithms and other reasons that'll be picked up when we publish this thing live. But here's an example of what you as partners have helped produce, laying the foundation for what is hoped to be a school at some point, but training leaders, inspiring indigenous missionaries, indigenous leaders to reach their nation. And as we, whenever we go into a nation, we fact find, we invite people to collaborate with what's going on. And I want to talk about a very specific translation project that's ongoing right now that you can actually be a part of. And I will show you actually a short clip. We were actually, it was brought to our attention what would be great resources to translate into this language for this nation. And as many of you know, Tony Cook, who's just a tremendous gift to the body of Christ, wonderful author, and has brought some incredible teachings over the years. And we've always used his resources wherever we go to train and inspire leaders there. There was 2 books in particular that we wanted to start with Tony's books. And actually, I'm going to have the team show a quick video that kind of highlights that, and we'll come back and talk about it here. Madison, why don't you go ahead and play that for us?
אנחנו עם הספר, ולהם חשוב לנו להמשיך להוציא לאור ספרים חדשים כל שנה. הספרים שאנחנו עובדים עליהם היום חשובים ויכולים לתרום רבות לקהל הקוראים הישראלי. ספרים שבונים בסיס אמונה יציב ומספקים כלים לבנות גוף חזק. כמו הספר בעקבות תימותאוס, או הספר האם לאחר מוות. היום, לאחר כמעט 3 שנות לחימה ואבדות כואבות, הספר יכול לעזור לקוראים להתמודד עם האובדן ולחזק ולעודד את מי מהם שמתמודד עימם.
So what is so exciting about this is part of the translation team in country, and they reported to us that specifically the book Life After Death would be one of the most important subjects, as he mentioned there. So many have lost loved ones with the conflict that's been happening over the past few years in that nation. And so partners like you have contributed significantly to the translation of both In Search of Timothy and Life After Death. And I'm happy to report, Matt, that we are basically 50% done with the funding of this project. So we are absolutely moving forward on that. Tony Cook's partners have accounted for much of the remaining that has come in. Clubs and 40 partners actually fronted the first big chunk of that. And so we're 50% done. If you would like a chance to sew into this, the team is going to put the link up where you can contribute to that. You can also email admin@clubs1040.com. This is one of those that we haven't pushed out publicly, but we would love to invite you now to join that. Now we have, other titles that we have translated. We have audio versions, and everything that we translate, we make online, make available online for free for the people who speak those languages. And we're creating those tools to do that. Your partnership has actually created tools for people to access these resources digitally. And we also want to print and distribute that way, casting the widest net to catch people in these resources. So tremendous opportunity there. The team will help connect, let you give to that if you are so led. Exciting stuff. We could talk all day about that one particular country and that one particular project, the translations that we're doing. We've got actually translation that's happening in Russian in that country as well, that people will have an opportunity to give to, be a part of. But for an entirely different nation, a completely closed nation, we won't mention names here today. We've got some team members who received supernatural favor from the government on relocation. Two of our team members actually have a meeting with government officials this Sunday. Things are progressing there. We actually have brought on a team member that is bringing in systems that are going to help us accomplish these big, holy, audacious goals in these closed nations, and this one in particular, which is really exciting. But Matt, this just over 30 days ago, we had advanced teams who went into another nation. If you would like to talk a little bit about that, tell us what was going on there.
Yeah, I'll just summarize it real quick. In one of the countries close to Lebanon, in Beirut, the team in the second level and the graduates are now partnering together towards a second campus on the border, which will launch in October. Again, another project opportunity for partners to be a part of. And our aim was to have 10% of the students to come from the adjoining country of Syria, come across the border. And so we have team members now that are going in and out of the country, and the country, because of the transformation that's happening across the Middle East because of the conflicts and the results of the conflicts, are opening up opportunities that didn't exist for the last decade or even more. And we're on the last visit, one of the things that happened is they invited through conversations, they were talking with a lot of the church leaders, and they have found that there's at least 25 people that are extremely interested in coming across the border for training in that campus. So that's a lot more. If we had 100 students, that's 25% of the student body. So it's way over 10%. And I think we're aiming at 70 students to begin with in this campus. So it's a significant portion, and that's just early days yet. There's a taster session on the Lebanese side of the border that is happening this weekend. It's a special session, and 5 leaders are coming over for that. That will have a ripple effect moving forward. And then in September, there's a 3-day event where the team is going into the country and they're going to hold meetings to give people locally more of an experience and a taste, and to strengthen leaders there. So that is ramping up in tremendously exciting ways that, seriously, just weeks ago, you couldn't get into the country very easily at all. And now even some people with our American passports are getting in the country as well. So things, because the team is ready, opportunity opens, we're in there, we're leveraging those things. And that is a part of the multiplication ripple effect of this campus. Is will be the feeder in developing engine for the campus that will eventually happen inside that country. And we'd love to see it happen in Damascus, but wherever the Lord leads. And that will be probably 2 to 3 years from now. That's a big part of what you're making happen. And we appreciate all that you're doing. Club 1040 Partners, friends, is your prayers and support.
Outstanding. Well, also in Lebanon, the October student intake is on track. There's an August leadership pipeline which will now be like the largest that they've held since they've been doing these. Around 45 participants are currently being trained to become future leaders across the region, not just in Lebanon, but across the region, the country that Matt was just referring to, and others. Now, there was an outstanding outreach that just happened, and we got another fun video to show from Christelle on the Lebanon team about the kids outreach and the results of that. And so I'll go ahead and have the team bring that video up and show that for us.
Some input and some, let's say, feedback from the outreach that happened in Zahle this weekend. I just want you to know that it was an amazing time. 13 kids received Jesus, and we ministered healing to 16 kids during that time in the kids ministry. It was an awesome time. A lot of people came from Zahle, from different places. Some people came from Beirut, and they were really blessed with what happened. There was the great message of Elijah, and then there was a time for food. But really what happened during the kids ministry is amazing. Really, 13 kids received Jesus, and the team ministered healing for 16 kids is a really big thing. The same thing that Rafi said is that so many times the kid is the open door for the parents to really receive Jesus and for them to walk in the will of God for their lives.
So excited to hear 13 kids accepting Jesus as their Lord and Savior. They're in the kind of the launch point for that region on the eastern side of the country. You know, at Club 1040, our other wonderful founding international director, Julie Beamer, has made it an emphasis that, you know, kids are world changers. And so many people, if you're on this call, there's a high likelihood that you received Jesus as a child or adolescent. And it's one of our strategies everywhere we go. Just as a quick teaser, you're going to be seeing more information coming out about our Club 1040 Kids apprenticeship we're calling Rise, and it actually is a virtual hybrid live training that we are doing. It's a 23-week program here based in the US that will actually be applicable everywhere we go, but training people how to mobilize kids into the Great Commission. So just a quick teaser on that, because you know that is a essential part of the ministry that we do. So super excited to see that. You know, there where Christelle was talking about that outreach happening, that was held there at in Zockley at Citygate. And Matt, there was a kind of a situation that happened with the Citygate Church that our partners have been given to help house the second campus of the school in Lebanon. Give us a quick update on that situation.
Yeah, so a couple things there. One is the kids outreach that happened was parallel to an outreach that was kind of in the public, because where the building is being built, there's a big concrete slab where they're putting the steel for the future sanctuary, and they made a outdoor public open event on that slab. When it's finished, you'll seat maybe 600 people. It's a big space. And it got so much attention that there were complaints, and as a result, there was an order to cease and desist on building and everything else. So because of the fact that we now have legal standing within the country of Lebanon, we're able to exercise some influence over that, because that church officially comes underneath the umbrella that of our legal status there. And so we were able to get that stay removed, all fines removed, and then put things in better order for it to have the legal standing to have the church building be a church building there. It's incredible the kind of influence that God has given the ministry. So I just want, a lot of times partners don't understand that at any time, if the wrong person, or in some cases the right person, complains, things can get stopped. But everything, God has just given us such favor in these areas.
So awesome. Well, some more output from the graduates of the Bible College there in Lebanon, a group of them are spearheading a initiative to adopt an unreached people group in a closed nation in the region. I just wanted to let you guys know, if you're watching this, there's some more information coming out about that, but some things have been happening behind the scenes over this last 30 days. And we're excited to very, very soon show you some testimonies about how and why this particular unreached people group it is being engaged by the graduates. And when we say unreached people group, we're saying, hey, there's a people who have the same language and culture and often geographical location that have less than 2%. In this particular situation, it's a 0.0 something percent of that population being believers. And so the church has to cross borders, cross cultures to bring resources in the gospel to establish those believers, establish that church. And so that's what we're doing in partnership with this group of graduates. We're very excited about that. More coming very soon on that. We got to get through some more things here, Matt. So much happening here, but this outstanding testimony came from the Nigerian team. There's a program, the Nigerian Correctional Service Chaplaincy Capacity Development Workshop, which is a mouthful. It says the program was designed to strengthen the biblical foundation, pastoral competence, and spiritual readiness to support inmate rehabilitation, reformation, and reintegration. It's also sought to deepen participants' knowledge of scripture and practical ministry skills while fostering renewed spiritual commitment in their personal lives, families, and correctional ministry. And Matt, tell us a little bit about this update that we received from the Nigerian team.
Yeah, what I want to highlight here, for example, even what we're talking about when in Lebanon, when you help to sponsor students in the establishment of these training centers, there's ripple effects that happen. So, in 2009, you helped Julie and I and my family move to Nigeria, start this work. It's been going for almost 15 years. We have the privilege to go and do graduations. There's 10,000 students now in 9 campuses, but in addition to that, they were asked to do this training specifically amongst the chaplains across the entire nation. They brought all the prison chaplains, 2 from each prison, 56 correction officers, and there were 7 teaching sessions. There were a number of group application and learning sessions. And so it's just kind of an example of the type of thing that happens as a ripple effect of training leaders in the way that you do when you partner with the establishment of a Bible college. It has this ripple effect. We want these things to be self-governing, self-financing, and also self-propagating. So you front the start, but then we quickly raise up the local teams and then the local resources to be able to keep it going. And once you fund the start, so you might invest $500,000, $1 million into the start of something, but then over time, that has this ripple effect where now in Nigeria, the budget is over $1 million every year. And there's all these people being trained. In Clubton 40, no partner money goes to that anymore. It's all local funded, local led, and local propagated.
Incredible. Fruit of the fruit. And lastly, we've had the pleasure of had Matt and Julie in the States a little bit this last month. And so we wanted to take advantage of those opportunities when we get them. And we had the opportunity to have Matt in ministering in some U.S. churches. How was that last month, Matt?
Yeah, we always love it. It's a big part of what we feel our call is to help release faith in the body of Christ that we can fulfill the Great Commission in our generation. So when we go into churches like, for example, here in Connecticut, that picture there, great church. We did 3 services. Julie did the children's ministry side of it. And that's one of the reasons, for example, why we're doing the kids ministry, the Clubton 40 Kids sort of Rise apprenticeship, is because of the fact that, Julie and I can't be in these churches all the time. But the impact is so amazing that happens when we get there and we do that. In the kids' lives, it builds memorials now in their lives. So now there's time in the, like in the 10 years ago we were in a church, and now some of those kids that were 10 are now 20 years old, and they've been on all these kind of mission experiences, or they're helping on the staff of a church or something like that. And they come up to Julie and say, Miss Julie, I was one of the kids in the parade that you did. And so we do that. What are we doing? We're inspiring faith in the heart of children and adults wherever we go, that we can fulfill this great commission in our generation. And so I'll do even multiple different type of focuses on the different services. We share the experiences, we share the product or the fruit of what that church does, and it gives people an opportunity to partner with what's happening. And they're always so generous. So we did that. We also did what we love to do, and that's in addition to Grace Family Church there, we were also able to be in Pennsylvania. There was a big storm that came through, but we powered through. I don't know exact numbers, but it looked like it was close to 100 of us gathered together, church leaders from across the northeast of the USA. And we had the ability to speak into those churches some of the same things over 3 days. Just really grabbing hold of the fact that, hey, do you think that we can build God's dream together, and challenging them that we can fulfill the Great Commission in this generation.
Outstanding. And so that kind of brings us to the end of our time here. And I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you for being such a huge part of what God is doing these last days and reaching every unreached nation. So for me here at the USA HQ, I'm signing off. Matt, thanks so much for joining us, my friend.
All right. Blessings. Thank you.